How's it going, everyone? So got a short, rather impromptu video for you guys today. So recently, the subject of purity signaling has come up, and by this I mean the men's movement. Some people in the men's movement have been accused of pushing a certain way of advocating for men's issues, and calling this purity signaling. You kind of get what I mean by this. Just there's got to be a purity in the way that something that men's issues are handled and such. I think this accusation is wrong, and here is my reason. So I'm supposing this accusation comes from people who think we're really being harsh towards tradcons and feminists or something. That we're burning bridges or we're cutting ties to feminists and traditionalists that we should instead be allies with. And some of you are already guessing this, by the way. I'm talking about the likes of Christina Hoff Sommers and the Christina Hoff Sommerses and the Camille Pallias and the what have yous. The same people that make the mistake that feminism offered any sort of net positive. By the way, that those who still think that feminism offered a net positive is naive. They're displaying a form of naivete on the whole subject. Actually, another accusation that's lobbed at us is that we're becoming the mirror image of feminism that we're trying to fight, or something like that. For those that really want to push the extremes of modernism to the point that nobody even knows what position is worth fighting for, I give these people the ironic title of extreme moderatists. Um, you know, uh, so we got these people making these accusations, and we also got idiots like Claire Lehman of Quillette. These people, these women who hide behind their male satellites. They try to airbrush the entire uh, work of the men's movement and dismiss it and call it mirrored images of feminism, so as to just dismiss us completely. They don't like that the men's movement is at its most integral, doesn't kowtow to the likes of these Joan of Arc types that want to provide you a mind your betters, uphold women before above man type approach and vision. That kind of advocacy for men's issues. Their kind of advocacy for men's issues. So they attack the men's movement as the male equivalent of feminism because they can't get that, because we won't give this to them, because we know better, right? We've already had that with the likes of Lauren Sutton and recently, and her posse of gynotards. Sorry, not. I meant gynotrads. So to start off with, let me debunk this whole notion that we need to be maintaining ties to the likes of Christina Hoff Sommers and not dismiss a potential ally as if that actually means anything. So first off, these equity feminists are, in fact, gynocentrists that are hostile to the men's movement in terms of both the core values of the movement as well as in outward appearance. Second of all, many people like to cite Paul Elam's takedown of Christina Hoff Sommers as, oh, he's burning bridges to a potential ally or some horseshit like that. Um, that was done because it needed to be made. Paul Elam did nothing wrong here. All that was is the calling out of this attitude about male disposability whenever it suited the likes of her. I don't know what's more insidious, by the way, an honest misandrist red femme, or somebody that would profess to be anti-feminist but at the same time require that men be on their knees to service womankind at the expense of their own dignity, at the expense of men's dignity. The men's movement has to have zero tolerance of those that profess to attack men for being men as opposed to being in service for women. See, that's why it's easy for these equity feminist morons to talk about men's issues and such, while all they're doing is just trying to uphold a way for men to service womankind and make it be something that holds up women, by and the expense of male kind, since they themselves are the women that will be protected by this sort of thing and benefit from it. They will be the ones that logically push for it. That's precisely why it has such a collective following. It's such a massive following. If this is supposed to be so oppressive to women, why are so many women opting for this sort of thing? Feminist, tradcon, it doesn't matter. Males as serviceable robots is a constant in these types of gynocentric frames of mind. The entire point of the men's movement, by the way, at its most pure, profound, and meaningful, is to combat the notion that man is this sacrificial sort of creature, this sacrificial animal. There are way too many people, way too many women that are thrilled by the idea of man as a sacrificial creature, sacrificed for their benefit. These women, if you notice, are rather gleeful, and they're excited at the fact that their standard of masculinity entails self-sacrifice. Why is that? Self-destruction at the service of others, a masculine trait? This doesn't strike me as a real natural masculine standard, by the way. It strikes me more as a philosophic, intellectual pandemic. It's been unresolved. This pandemic, since I'm calling it that, is unresolved for too long, like for vast stretches of time. So anyway, back to this purity signaling horse shit. No, just because we're trying to be intellectually consistent here does not mean we're purity signaling. Just because we're diligently calling out misandry in everyday unconscious life, it doesn't make us purity signaling. By the way, purity signaling is a poorly conceived convention that tries to ride on the coattails of something like virtue signaling, which is at least, provable by observation, right? We see evidence of virtue signaling everywhere, whereas what gets accused of purity signaling, it's just a plea for consistency in defending and combating, defending men and combating misandry in this men's movement. You know for a fact that misandry has been mainstream for a while now, and too many practice it unconsciously. When we in the men's movement call out and pick apart those traces of misandry, the wrong fucking thing to do is to say that we're being too mean because we need to be moderate and a civilized approach is necessary. If we were just being too mean, then it's a no-go. That whole attitude is the bad thing. It's not us calling out gynocentrism where we see it as the bad thing. Really, sorry, asshole, but the criteria of civilized discussion is that, I'm not literally wringing you in the neck for disagreeing. I'm not trying to destroy physically my opponent. Because clearly that's abhorrent. That goes without saying, right? But don't put, say, me calling somebody out for their blatant gynocentrism and anti-male attitudes, or their attempt to admonish people trying to speak the truth on the same level on that same level, right? The very act of me saying, fuck you, you're wrong, is a classic civilized act. We aren't being policed as to who's being too honest, who's hurting someone's feelings for being wrong, and We're speaking our minds and we work it out. That's civilized discussion. That is the entire point of civilized disagreement. I know this hurts your feelings because you think that a civilized disagreement is about making nice with the enemy and trying to point out how brilliant the other side is. No, saying that you're wrong and you need to fucking knock that shit off is the civilized behavior. It's the civilized discussion. You need to really see this, else you're just the moderatist police. By the way, you idiots who think you're pining for the good old days in which we can just disagree in a civilized manner, well, sorry, we already are. There's no need to pine for that. We're already discussing civilized in a civilized way. Telling something like it is not less civilized a manner of disagreement. But I really wonder about this fucking Kathy Young style, mind your betters type of condescension about who's making arguments the right way. That's the kind of thing that's going to stifle civilized conversation more so than two parties going you're wrong at each other. It's this honesty and lack of literal violence that's the thing that makes it civilized. You're taking this for granted. That's the real problem here. Making friends with the enemy is not the civilized behavior that you wish it to be. To think that men's advocates and feminists can come to a common position regarding helping men and caring about men's issues, that's a total and complete pipe dream as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I know the thing about some people are ex-feminists that could be persuaded to our side, but they get persuaded because we've told them that you're wrong. We didn't make nice and praise their points. We didn't say that feminism is such a good thing, but we can come to this together and support men. They weren't persuaded out of feminism by saying that feminism is so fucking brilliant. To those who are deluded about the whole idea that feminism supported, it purported positives, should really revisit things like the Declaration of Sentiments, in which male kind had war declared on him by those that speak for womankind. Gynocentrism in any matter is a direct indicator of disdain towards men's dignity, and any form of practice of this gynocentric standard by men and women, no matter how voluntary that they think they're being, is an exercise in condescension towards the male half of the species. And you can bet that equity feminists and tradcon women and their male robots that they call alphas just to make them feel terrific about themselves for servitude they're all on the same page, and I don't think they're what we consider friends to the men's movement. So dispense with the tired and always failed notion, tried and failed notion, not tried and true, the tried and false notion that the enemy of your enemy is your friend. It's not. The enemy of your enemy is not your friend. The enemy of your enemy will still ultimately intend to destroy you when all is said and done. Integrity is about winning via your own merits and not through these dubious alliances, these strange bedfellows. Anyway, that's all I had to say on this matter. This was rather spontaneous. I'm not sober, so if that's how it came across, then you're right. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching.